Hey everyone, Duke Nougat 3D here, back again to review another mask as usual, and this is one that I've had on my bucket list for a very, very long time. As I've probably mentioned numerous times before in the past, I am primarily focused and enthralled with American designs, but every so often the Russians will create something that absolutely captivates my fascination and just blows my mind. And what you are looking at here is a fabrication of the person who's probably the main reason I got into restoring gas masks in the first place. For what we have here is a MB-1-80 owl optical mask for basically night vision devices, things like that. It's not an original mask. This is a entirely custom-made mask made by Andrei Borshev of Gas Mask Tech Lab. I will link his group down in the description. If you have a VK account, you can check it out. And he is selling these masks. I'll discuss the process involved in procuring this and basically what to expect with your mask and things of that nature. But first, let's get into a little bit of history here. So, as mentioned before, this is an entirely custom-made mask, and it is based off of a couple original prototypes that were found in abandoned Soviet labs. I don't know the specific labs, possibly Neorganica, but that's probably not true. It may be, maybe not. Again, feel free to correct me because my history is a little bit lacking due to language barriers, etc., etc., but these face pieces did not have any official designation that I know of, and are simply referred to as MB-180 for night vision devices or night vision equipment Type 1 and Type 2. The Type 1, I believe Max Chernyshev, I'll probably link his channel, although I doubt he has a video on it, I haven't checked, is basically both of these original MB-180 PNV masks have a distinct difference from the MB-180 owl that Borshev creates, because the originals have a solidly molded cushion, which is a facepiece cushion, which is patched in around the periphery, and it's a much more seamless looking design, although there is some reinforcing strips patching it in, whereas the owl obviously is comprised of several different pieces of rubber patched together through Borshev's unique welding process, as he calls it, which I'll get more into detail in a moment. But anyways, back to the original designs. They're different mainly for that difference in eyepieces, but also through some other minute details, such as the bayonet ports on the face blank having somewhat of a taper near the edge of them. It's very hard to describe, but if you look at original photos, you'll be able to tell. And some differences in the plastic feature, like the little indentations or little knurls on the outlet valve to unscrew it. And that's really about it. Again, these masks weren't finalized, the original ones, and again, they are different. There is a Type 1 and a Type 2. The Type 1, the main difference with that is that the knurling on the outlet valve cover threads are a bit different, and the eyepieces have a pressed indentation in them. There's like more detail on the actual eyepiece frames. And then the Type 2, which is actually what the owl is more similar to, has this same style of outlet valve threads, and then the eyepieces are basically the same as a children's filtering mask, PDF-7 or PDF-D, basically like this as you see here. Now, the owl, which is entirely a fabrication of Borshev's own design, which is, again, very closely based on the original MB-180 for PNV Type 1 and 2, is, again, different because it uses an entirely hand-patched and welded eyepiece assembly, which is comprised of several different components from several different masks, as well as adding sheet stock reinforcements. So basically what he did to create this is the actual eyepieces themselves are obviously for a PDF style children's filtering mask, and they are patched into place using a conically shaped sort of tunnel of rubber here, and these serve as the dampers for the eyepieces to allow them to be pressed closer to the face for use with night vision devices and optical devices, so on and so forth. And then this in turn is patched onto the eyepiece frame assembly of a MGP or GP7, as you probably already know it by, and then that whole assembly in turn is patched into the actual face blank of the mask in question, in this case being an MB-180, and the base mask is made by Tambov Mesh in the first quarter of 1993 with a mold number of 89. And really not too much is different from a standard MB-180 aside from this. And as you can see, he has painted over the middle components as per the originals, and it has a nice, it has a very laboratory look to it. You can tell the painstaking handwork that went into patching all of this, and it's just a very fascinating. I'm absolutely pleased with this. It doesn't I wasn't expecting it to look perfect, obviously, but that's kind of the charm to it. The fact that it looks like an original laboratory product is basically why I love this thing so much. So more onto how he actually patches this. I bet you're thinking that he uses glue. Well, yes and no. I don't know the full details of his welding process, but I do know that it involves using a decent amount of cyanoacrylate adhesive, or super glue if you live in the US, to basically patch these parts together, but that is not what's holding them together. The super glue is only there to basically reinforce the parts for his actual welding process, which I assume entails actually revulcanizing all these bits of rubber together as one piece. And there are some spots where it doesn't fully take, but that's perfectly all right, because everywhere where it needs to, it is fully sealed and it is perfectly perfectly malleable, perfectly strong, and it has not failed on me yet. If you do get one of these, expect the joints to be a bit crunchy, because there is some crystallized remnants of cyanoacrylate adhesive that will be still present in the rubber, and it will make it seem like the mask is just super glued together, when in fact it is not. It is actually fully welded together, and it's basically the same as one solid piece of rubber at this point. So you don't really have to worry about it. That's actually made a little bit of an ass of myself, assuming that it was super glued together, and put up a little bit of a fuss, and it kind of that's all resolved now. That's beside the point. So in other news, before I get into the internal details and other portions of the kit, I should note, forgive me for going off camera here, that I'm actually working with Borshev on developing a fully molded eyepiece pocket assembly similar to how the originals were done, and the idea is that he will provide the CAD diagrams, and then eventually, once I get a workshop set up with Moulage, we're going to work on the die castings for actually making the injection mold for the eyepiece assembly. So essentially, instead of having to patch together a whole bunch of separate pieces, Borshev can simply just have that one assembly and just patch it in around the periphery and be done with it. So that being said, let's get into the details of the kit, which again, because this is an entirely custom kit, there is no standardization, and the accessories are entirely up to your liking. So I essentially have it in a standard PMK2 configuration, which comes with the face form, obviously. I have the plugs for the canister, a waterproofing bag. You have the GOST to bayonet adapter, if using the GOST 40mm port. A spare drinking tube, the user identification tag to sew onto the carrier, which I have not done, the winterizing and camouflaging filter sock, basically a mud guard or a snow guard essentially, and then the insert to strengthen it and allow it to seal against the surface of the canister. The carrier, which I will not get into full detail with, and then the mask itself, complete with a canister. I'm not entirely sure what model canister this is. I got this with my PMK3. I know that the KB marking here refers to ammonia filtration. I've heard. I'm entirely wrong on this, and again, feel free to correct me because I'm not well versed on my Russian stuff. And then obviously a blanking port on the other side for the side that the canister is not on. So let's get another good look at the mask here. So I should point out that the tubing that is on this mask is not original. That came with it. He did send an original PMK or MB-1-80 style drinking tube, which is the very poor quality Soviet hospital grade rubber, which is not his fault. Again, he's just working with standard materials. I just put my own touch on it by adding better quality tubing, which I recommend anyone do in any case, because the tubing on original MB-1-80 and M80 masks is quite it's a bit fragile, to say the least. But anyhow, that's entirely not his fault. That's just how things are. And just giving you a good look over everything, unscrewing the outlet valve assembly. It's a little bit tight because I have it screwed down all the way. You could get a good look in there, and you see it's the early green plastic type, as per how the originals were made. And then I'll give you a good look on the inside of the mask as well, if you give me one moment here, screwing that down. Taking out the drinking tube, you can see the enamel has chipped a little bit, but that's not a big problem, and I can easily repaint this myself if I want to. I'm not going to at the time being, though. And then, obviously, that's the drinking tube. And then probably one of my favorite features about this mask is how you can pull out the dampers and basically shift the lenses into really wacky positions. Like, just, they go all over the place. They're very prehensile lenses. It's kind of amusing, really. Really not much to say about that. And the only reason I haven't put it on the head is because I don't like dealing with the MB-180 harnesses. You can see that the harness is also made by Tambov Mesh and dated the 4th quarter of 1992. Let me undo the bottom straps to give you a good look on the inside of the facepiece. Give me just one moment here. Alrighty, so looking inside the mask, we can see that the how the patching processes work together. You can see some reinforcing strips around where the frame of the eyepiece, the new eyepiece assembly, is patched into the mask, and you can see the eye cups for the PDF style lenses, and you can see just how everything is welded together. Very fascinating. It's just, this is definitely a labor of love, this mask. I'm very happy with it. And looking down, you can see the standard bayonet deflector, the drinking tube, the voice diaphragm, which is unpainted, but that's how originals were, so that is not an issue. And then the outlet valve throughout the bottom there, the blanking port off to the side. Really nothing to see. It's just a standard MB-180, just with the addition of some fancy optical lenses, which honestly makes it really appealing. I'm very happy I got this, and again, thank you for selling this to me. The process was a little bit tricky because apparently PayPal is not very friendly to Russia, so he did have to send it to an external party who was willing to ship it to me. So I guess if you're an American viewer wanting to buy one of these, just be prepared to have him ship the mask to another person before they ship it to you, because that's just the way they have to do it because of PayPal's weird system. And those curious about the price, I believe I paid around close to around 130, maybe a little more than that. I'm still short like $5 because of PayPal's stupid like commission, as they call it. They take like a fee out or something that I was not able to detect even while using a fee calculator. So I need to spot them that $5 later on, but I need to do more art commissions in order to make more money. But anyways, that's beside the point. So these masks really aren't that expensive for what they are. It's a very, very nice design, and I absolutely love it. As I said before, I stopped giving this thing lip service. I'm absolutely pleased that I have this, and if there's any other details I could show off, I can't really think of any at the moment, but if you have any questions, obviously feel free to ask in the comments below. So that's basically wraps it all up. Again, I'll leave all links to the people involved in the description, and I hope you enjoyed. If you have any comments, questions, corrections, or concerns, drop them down in the comments below as always. I'm Duke Nuka 3D, and I will see you all later.